caves I've ever gone in, this one just made my body vibrate. The closer I got to it, the crazier my body felt, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna go in there right now, but I'm coming back someday.
That was the sound. It's the chains moving when I climb down the ladder.
I don't know why that one chain is swinging back there. And obviously something is making the chains swing. So time to get the hell out of here.
There's something right there. What is that?
That was like a voice.
Hello?
So I just saw something move up there too.
With these flowers here, next to a headless, that is a Jizo. I don't really want to look for more.
Deep beneath the surface of Earth lies a world of darkness, mystery, and danger. For centuries, explorers have ventured into these hidden realms seeking adventure, discovery, or simply the thrill of the unknown. But for some, these journeys have come at the ultimate cost. Number 10. The Mossdale Cave Tragedy. Deep within the labyrinth of England's Mossdale Caverns, John Ogden and 5 friends push deeper into uncharted territory. Known for its tight passageways and dangerous terrain, Mossdale Cave was no stranger to tragedy, but these 6 explorers hope to make history by mapping out all of its hidden depths. Right? That's the dream if you're an explorer. The group was over 2 miles from the entrance when a torrential downpour began. The rain turned the creek outside into a raging torrent, completely submerging the entrance and, of course, flooding the caves. Now, as water surged through every passageway, the group scrambled for safety. Trapped in a narrow tunnel, the group's options dwindled as the water rose. Ogden managed to wedge himself into a small fissure just big enough for his head to reach an air pocket, but there was no room for the others. Below him, the water engulfed his companions, leaving Ogden alone with no escape. Days later, rescuers discovered his lifeless body still trapped in the same crevice. Mossdale Caverns were sealed after the tragedy, but the tale of the 6 explorers remains a haunting reminder of nature's unpredictability. The cave beneath Boganica Bay. In the depths of an underwater cave in Croatia, the body of a diver identified as MK was discovered 177 feet below the surface. The police initially suspected foul play, believing one of his companions had attacked him during the dive. However, forensic analysis reveals an even darker story. MK had become disoriented in the underwater maze and ran out of oxygen. So, panicked and struggling to survive, he located a very small air pocket, but quickly realized that it wasn't enough to save him. Faced with the agony of drowning, MK seemingly took his own life to escape the excruciating death that awaited him. The discovery of his body and the grim reality of his final moments continue to serve as a dark warning to cave divers, especially with the dangers of exploring the unknown. Number 8. Lost in the Sterkfontein Caves. South Africa's Sterkfontein Caves are famous for their archaeological significance, but they became the site of a grim tragedy when Peter Verhulsel ventured into their depths. Known for taking risks, Peter's curiosity often led him off the beaten path, even when safety guidelines dictated otherwise. He was a brave explorer after all. During a dive, Peter ignored the safety line designated to guide divers through these underwater mazes, and on his 3rd detour he became hopelessly lost. Of course, running low on oxygen and unable to retrace his steps, he swam aimlessly through the pitch black tunnels until he stumbled across a small, dry island within the cave. Stranded and with no chance of rescue, Peter spent his final days on that rocky outcrop. Now, in a heartbreaking act of love, he scrawled a message in the sand for his wife and his mother. When rescuers finally located his remains 6 weeks later, his note served as a dark reminder of his humanity and the devastating isolation that he endured. It's nice that he left a note. I mean, at that point, you're panicking, you're freaking out, and you think about your loved ones. That's a good quality. Number 7. The rescue of Dion Dreyer. In 1994, 20-year-old Dion Dreyer tragically drowned during a dive in South Africa's Bushman's Hole, one of the deepest underwater caves in the world. His body was lost in the depths for over a decade until Dave Shaw, an experienced diver, attempted a recovery mission in 2005. Shaw located Dion's remains at the staggering depth of 885 feet, and he attached the line to the body, but he struggled to secure it in a body bag. As Shaw's movements grew frantic, his breathing quickened, overwhelming his rebreather. The carbon dioxide levels in his bloodstream began to rise at that point, clouding his judgment and causing severe confusion. After 5 minutes of struggling, Shaw attempted to ascend, but his light became entangled in the cave line connected to Dion's body. It was all bad. The struggle proved fatal, and Shaw perished next to a body that he had vowed to initially recover. Both men's remains were later retrieved in a combined recovery. Number 6. The Nutty Putty Cave Collapse. John Edward Jones entered Utah's Nutty Putty Cave on November 24, 2010, for what was meant to be a fun outing with the family. Now, the cave, notorious for its tight, twisting passageways, had been closed to the public for years due to safety concerns. But that's not going to stop John. John ventured into a narrow passage known as the Birth Canal, where he became wedged upside down in a space barely 10 inches wide. Yeah, he was upside down for 19 hours. Rescuers worked to free him, but still, nothing could work. They installed a pulley system and made multiple attempts to extract him, but each effort failed one after another. During one attempt, a section of rock collapsed, snapping the pulley rope and forcing John deeper into the crevice. Yikes. His rescuers were forced to abandon the operation as the cave became increasingly unstable. John ultimately succumbed to cardiac arrest from the stress and positioning of his body. Nutty Putty Cave was permanently sealed after his death, leaving John entombed within its depths. Number 5. Floyd Collins and the Crystal Cave. That sounds like an Indiana Jones movie, doesn't it? Floyd Collins was one of Kentucky's most famous cave explorers, known for his discoveries in Mammoth Cave National Park. In January 1925, while navigating a narrow passageway in Sand Cave, he accidentally dislodged a 27-pound rock that pinned his leg, trapping him. For 17 days, Floyd survived on food and water brought by rescuers, who worked tirelessly to free him. His story became a national sensation, with reporters camping outside the cave and tourists even gathering to watch the rescue efforts. Everybody was on board. We all wanted to win. Vendors even sold snacks and souvenirs, turning the site into this morbid spectacle. A little too much attention if you ask me. Rescue attempts were hindered by unstable rock formations and the cave's tight confines. Now, despite their best efforts, rescuers couldn't reach Floyd in time. He succumbed to his hypothermia and starvation on the 18th day of his ordeal. Number 4. The Cave Creek Disaster. On a routine field trip to New Zealand's Cave Creek, 17 people gathered on a wooden platform that was overlooking a chasm. Unbeknownst to them, the platform had been hastily constructed by unqualified workers who had used nails instead of bolts. That's a big detail. Under the weight of the group, the platform collapsed, plunging them into the chasm below. 4 people survived, clinging on to life as helicopters airlifted them out. 13 others weren't so lucky. They succumbed to their injuries shortly after. The Cave Creek disaster sparked outrage and of course led to widespread reforms in New Zealand's safety regulations, ensuring such a tragedy would never ever happen again. Number 3. The Panikin Plains Cave Flood. In 1988, a team of 15 cavers explored Australia's Panikin Plains Cave when a sudden storm caused this massive flood that sealed the entrance just like that. Andrew White and several companions were stranded on a ledge above the rushing waters, watching as boulders fell from the collapsing walls. Really a haunting sight. White braved the flood, swimming through the dangerous waters to find an alternative exit, and over the next 27 hours, he led a daring rescue operation, coordinating efforts to retrieve every trapped cave diver. Now, his quick thinking and bravery saved all 15 of the team, earning him widespread recognition. Number 2. The Nam Talu Cave Flood. Ignoring local warnings about monsoon season, Helena Carroll and her boyfriend John Cullen entered Thailand's Nam Talu Cave with a small tour group. Now, midway through their journey, a flash flood rushed into the cave, sweeping away most of the group. Helena clung onto a ledge while John attempted to swim for help. She watched helplessly as the current pulled him under very quickly. After 8 hours alone in the darkness, Helena was rescued by a search team. Out of the 9 tourists who entered the cave, she was the only survivor. And finally, number 1, the Plura Cave Disaster. Norway's Plura Caves became the site of a devastating accident in February 2014, when a group of Finnish divers faced tragedy. Jari Huatarainen became trapped in a narrow passage, and in his panic, he inhaled water and drowned. His body blocked the way for others to leave. Another diver, Jari Usamaki, succumbed to carbon dioxide poisoning after his own equipment malfunctioned. Kai Kankinen, the last diver, turned back and smashed through the frozen entrance to escape after being underwater for 11 hours. It took nearly 2 months for recovery teams to retrieve the rest of the bodies, marking the event as one of the deadliest cave diving incidents in history. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters, and we'll see you again soon on Sleepless Nights. See ya.
The Wild Rake is a deep water saturation diving vessel at 2:20 in the very early hours of the morning of the 8th of August. Richard looked back at the bell. Richard relayed his findings to the surface, and then he and Victor began preparing for an emergency rescue.